Hey there, scrappers, recyclers, members of the Shiver. It's Shark Scrapper. Welcome back for another interesting scrapping episode. Got something really interesting in my last pickup of electronics. This is a three-phase voltage monitor. Here, I'll bring that up kind of close for you to see. Three-phase voltage monitor. Now, these are in really rough shape. I have no idea what the backstory was on these. They were just in the electronic scrap along with a bunch of computers and other things. So I thought that would be kind of interesting to dive in and find out what we got here. Come on, let's go. All right, so we have some push buttons here. What I'm assuming is going on here is that when you have your three-phase coming in and you want to make sure that you've got good power across all three phases and that they're synced up properly and such. Anyway, I will admit that I've taken one of these apart already because there's no obvious screws, and I was just shaking my head going, now how in the world does this come apart? And so what I discovered is you have to take each one of these screws out, and these are really tight in here. You can hear them clicking. Fortunately, they're not that long, as you can see. All right, now get all those screws off of there, and we'll get these wire ends off. Now, these little wire ends here are copper, so set those aside. I will check them again just to be sure, but and the other thing that you'll want to do, because I know they look like they could be aluminum, and so you might think they're aluminum, so you take a file and you scrape along. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there's definitely a copper color there. Now, depending upon your yard or what you're doing, you could either put those in with your insulated copper wire because it's got the insulated copper wire ends, or you could throw that in with your dirty copper. Treat that as you will. I'm putting it in with my insulated copper wire, and that's just shred little metal bits. So now we have this situation. It still doesn't want to open. That's okay. Because what I found out is that you have to get a screwdriver in here and pry up each one of these, because they sort of act like a bracket or something that's holding the lid down. Now again, you could take your hammer, I suppose, and just mash this, but when you're not sure what's inside something, you don't want to just go banging on it because you might mess up something you want. And I'm trying to be able to show you so I don't want to smash up what's inside here. Oops, come on, there we go. So you're trying to catch either the edge of this vertical flat piece or the horizontal flat piece. And when you catch one of those edges, you can then get in here with your screwdriver and bring that up straight. Like that. Okay, now, still doesn't want to come apart because it is sealed on the edges. But let's get these things off of here. These little guys right there, they are also copper. So we take our file and give it a good scrape. And right on the edge there, you can see the copper coloring. These I'm going to put in with my copper. And we'll get this little bit of trash and the nuts out of the way. Now, what's our next thing to do? Well, sometimes, like any good scrapper, you got to resort to the hammer, but at least we know now these are not holding it down. So a couple of good taps on the side, and that'll let us break the seal. Then we can pull the top off. And we got some more of this copper. So you can see how these pieces here came up through the edge of the top part and then folded down to hold it in place. That is one of the reasons why I was happy I didn't just smash this, because I probably would have smashed up that board. It's an LCD board, support board, or daughter card, or whatever you want to, however you want to refer to that, but there's an LCD screen on it. So we straightened out those pins. We've got 4 small screws here. And because we straightened out those pins already, we can get in here and get the LCD screen off. We had an interesting discussion on Sunday's live stream. If you're not familiar with that, on Sunday I go live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard and talk about precious metals and industrial metals and scrapper safety and scrap laws and things. And then we immediately go over to Ireland and join Scrapping Irish, where we have a general panel that comes up, and we just talk about questions that may have been generated from my first hour and other things that go on. Now, we talked about LCD screens because somebody was asking about, is there value in the LCD screens? And in these screens, sandwiched in the glass, is a rare earth element mineral called indium. It's in the form of indium tin oxide. And when energy or current is applied on these tiny little connectors, it causes the indium to become visible in the forms that we see as letters and numbers and such. I used to save these because I was thinking, well, indium, rare earth, maybe there's something there, but I haven't been able to find a buyer for them, so I'm not saving them now. If you know of any buyers for indium tin oxide or LCD screens so they can extract the indium, let me know, because if it's something that we can recycle and save, I'm all for it. All right, so this board, you've got all kinds of gold Enoch all over it, and these 2 little black button looking things, there's actually some IC underneath of that. There's some teeny tiny little MLCCs here, so I'm going to put this in with my peripheral high grades. Okay, now we get back to this board, and we'll get this piece of plastic off here. We have screws holding this down now that we can get to the screws from this side now. All right, that's our plastic. And the screws can go in with the shred. Okay. Yeah, we have tactile switches here. So that was from this part of the panel here. You press on those, you're pressing on these tactile switches here. Not much there. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way just so we can see what's underneath of there clearly. And so that's just going to be a, it's green on both sides, so you could maybe get away with putting that in your mid-grades, but there just isn't much there. So low or mid, you know, most times low and mid-grade are the same price anyway. So, right, this board, even though it's green on both sides, is going to be low grade because what you can't see, maybe you can, depending upon how the light hits this, is there's a lacquer coating over most of the components. Not all of them, but a lot of the components have a lacquer coating to seal them in place, sort of a weather resisting coating, and that's going to drop this down to low grade. So in order to get more value from it ourselves, we can pull these, because we know those are copper. And you're saying, how do we know they're copper? Because they do not respond to a magnet, which tells us that it's either copper or aluminum. We take a file, and we scrape on them, and we get past that coating, and we see the copper underneath there. So copper. So we're just going to take edge cutters and give them a twist to pop them off of the board. Now, the ICs are part of what's coated with the epoxy, so I'm not going to try to pull those ICs off. If you have a way to sell little tiny motors and transformers, then for more than shred, then you can pull those off. Here locally, that's just going to be shred, and it's not big enough for me to try to pull the copper and stuff out. So that's going to go in with my low-grade boards. You know, not a bad little scrap peripheral board. Couple low grades, some copper. Yeah, it's a little bit fiddly having to take out all these little screws and everything, but you know, maybe you just want to go whack at it with a hammer. Just be careful that you don't break or bust up the one board that has any kind of real value, that peripheral board. Otherwise, you know, it's got some value there with the copper. So I'm going to go ahead and put these over on the side where I will get to them when I want to take a break from PCs or servers, or just let my brain change up on something, which is important to do sometimes, because you know, if you're scrapping the same thing over and over and over again, it can get a little boring, and you want to give your mind a little shift. If you want to give your brain a little shift, check out this video or this video to check out more Shark Scrapper content, and the round one in the middle, that's to help you to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of Shark Scrapper. We'll see you all on the next one.